I decided to have breakfast at the small restaurant in my hotel. It was a nice, quaint place that had some classic breakfast offerings. I ordered the egg plate with coffee. It took a while for the food to come out, but eventually it did.
Looks really good. Is that a
The breakfast was good, and it was time to head out to my excursion. The excursion guide had said to meet him at this park. I had no idea what he looked like and thought that maybe I would be in a group and I'd be able to spot them. I had no way of contacting him outside of areas with internet, and so it was concerning when I saw no one else at the park. It was a lovely morning, and I took the opportunity to walk around and see if I could potentially spot someone who looked like they might be a tour guide. Does that look like a tour guide? No, probably not. I eventually sat down and was approached by a Turkish man. He was not the tour guide, but was a member of the group. It was great to know that I was in the right spot.
So I was between this one and Belize, but it was advised to stay in Belize City. So I was in between.
He was an avid traveler and a really nice guy. As we talked, a small, rascally fellow showed up, and this was our guide. He was having trouble connecting with some of the other group members to alert them as to where we were. So he said, "F it," and decided to just start the tour. Our first stop was a few feet from where we were. I was excited to see what the first landmark was. It was an iPad presentation about the history. Our tour guide's voice was raspy from partying, and combined with his accent, it was difficult for me to understand him.
La Paz is just like, well, if you hear me, I'm coughing now because I'm sick. It's because the last weekend I was in Colombia in a festival, music festival, so my voice is not available. Sorry.
But the Turkish guy and I found the iPad presentation very informative. He told us about the national flower and the flag and the national drink.
Let me present to you the horchata,
Which I was hoping would come with a sample, but the picture would have to do. 2 more members of the group did show up, and I introduced myself to them.
I was supposed to go to Armenia.
Oh, wow.
But
I think they were from Chicago, and they were very nice. We were on our way to the next stop, which was a tree. The guide had us all grope the fruit to feel how hard it was.
yeah, super hard.
It was hard. The next stop was some murals, which the guide explained represented the renovation of the country.
we can say that it's the representation of the innovation of the country or renovation of the country.
The next mural was less happy and illustrated the history of the country and how just about all of the native Salvadorans were killed or displaced. He ran through the history of some of the leaders, including this one guy, Maximiliano Hernandez Martinez, who really didn't like Asians or Jews.
And the list will be Chinese people, Japanese people, Asian people generally, people from India, Turkish people, Jews, and evangelists.
He was the El Salvador president around the time of World War II and was pen pals with Hitler due to their dislike of the Jews.
And for the reason that he hates the Jews, some special guy in Germany, in that moment, in that time, sent personal letters to him. Try to guess who.
Hitler.
Correct, Adolf Hitler. And even
However, El Salvador joined the side of the Allies ultimately because apparently this dude hated Japanese people even more than the Jews and didn't want to join them in the Axis powers. Bro must have been really wronged by a Japanese person at some point, because how do you hate the Jews enough to get admiration from Hitler but still decide that the Japanese are worse? Crazy. We then walked past a memorial with all of the names of the people who died in the Salvadoran Civil War. He laid out the role of the United States in the conflict, which is basically to assist both sides, train the armies and provide weapons to both sides and, I don't know, I guess let the better team win or whatever. It was very interesting to hear all that had happened over the years in El Salvador. We then moved on to a statue of a pair of hands holding some butt cheeks or something. We moved right along and saw an old hospital and a new giant building under construction that I think was a university. We continued our walk into the heart of San Salvador. We passed by some very cool buildings, one of which was this cathedral. I would come to find that among the most impressive aspects of San Salvador was their cathedrals, but more to come on that later. We came upon the building of the Easter salt mats. Apparently, Easter is one of the largest citywide celebrations in San Salvador, and one of the things they do is create giant murals up and down the street using colored salt that ultimately form religious imagery. It was only in its early stages, though. We then came across a statue of Simon Bolivar, who did a lot of stuff for South America, but apparently did some stuff for El Salvador too. Next, we prepared to enter the Central Market. This was the aspect of Central America that I was most anxious to see because you see a bunch of places in the US try to replicate outdoor Central American markets and it just never feels as authentic. I was very excited to check it out. But before we could, he had to point out this chicken place, which was basically the Salvadoran equivalent of Chick-fil-A. Except I don't think they hate the gays. Maybe they do. With that, we began our descent into the market.
You are going to hear a lot of words that they're going to scream, but they're screaming right now. And what's going to be those words? First, it's going to be a cora. Dos coras, tres coras. What it means, cora? No, I don't have it. Oh, cora, it means 25 cents.
It was very chaotic.
Gracias.
I felt fully entrenched in the true El Salvadoran culture. I became indistinguishable from the El Salvadoran people and fit right in. I was very glad to have a guide because this place was awfully difficult to navigate. It was all very interesting though, and soon enough we found ourselves in Starbucks. Apparently the Starbucks makes really good Salvadoran coffee. I didn't try any. Next was the indoor market.
What is the difference between the road market and this one?
The prices?
No.
It was pretty cool. Just like a line of garage sales, pretty much. We stopped to try one of the classic Salvadoran games. You had to try to catch this bell-shaped thing on a small stick.
Flip around, yeah.
It's the wrong way. It's the wrong way.
Wrong way.
There you go. I did.
That's why I was not getting it, obviously.
That's the reason.
I was terrible at it. But so was everyone else in my group, so I didn't feel bad. The indoor market was great to see, and it was time to head to the next destination. We headed to a local shop that served El Salvador's national drink, the horchata. It was a very refreshing drink to have after a long walk, and it gave us a good time to sit together and get a history lesson. I was excited to hear the history lesson, but there was a lady that kept shouting things in my ear, which made it difficult.
They're going to control with extortions, killing people, stealing money, putting rent. How rent? Well, let's for example.
The stuff I did hear, though, was very interesting. He discussed how the current President Bukele declared a state of emergency to sidestep the Constitution and imprison all of the gang members that were plaguing the country and making San Salvador one of the most unsafe capitals in the world. Bukele was successful in doing so, but the precedent of sidestepping their constitution led to some present discontent. There are very few gang members left, but lots of military police everywhere that basically have the right to arrest anybody for anything at their own discretion. Bukele also changed the election laws to keep himself in power, something that was controversial among the populace. It was very interesting and comforting to know that the United States wasn't the only country with government polarization. After the horchata and history lesson, it was time to head to our next spot, the historic center of San Salvador. It was the central area of activity in San Salvador that had a lot of their most developed and large buildings. Government buildings, university buildings, cathedrals. I was excited to see all of these new places, but before we could get to any of them, our guide decided to attack me with birds.
And there I come.
It was cool to see all of the birds come together, but it's actually quite scary having hundreds of birds fly right into your face. After almost being a victim of the birds, we moved on to the library. It was quite an impressive building and one of the most visually striking from the outside. Our guide explained to us a very interesting law, which was that in the library you are not allowed to take pictures or video where a child's face is clearly visible. I have been called a man-child before, and so I didn't know if this shot of me in the library went against the law. I decided it best not to take my chances and didn't record a lot in the library until we got to the top. The view from the top was stunning. There was a clear shot of the main cathedral and central square. For a country that I had heard very little about prior to arriving, I was awed. With the right perspective, the former murder capital of the world was now a truly beautiful place.